This is decentralized nutrition in frame of inaccessibility and economics. Following from our budget sheet template, which was done previously within Microsoft Excel or the Microsoft OneDrive ecosystem, the budget sheet is now available for use under the Google Sheets ecosystems. So without further ado, let us begin the general walkthrough process. So the very first thing obviously is to actually visit nutritional-humility.me and click on the blogs section so that we can actually see where the latest food weekly budget sheets update resides. So basically we're gonna go to that blog article. All we need to do is to basically just left click on the make a copy of the Google account, and technically speaking, if you already have a Google account, this is what you're going to see, by which you'll be asked to copy the document. This is very necessary because otherwise you'll be editing the main public master document, in which that is of course what we do not want. This is what we are actually greeted with. Nutritional-humility.me, weekly budget sheet as a nice big heading, brief instructions on how to use, and immediately from there on the actual budget sheets, in which all of this can be summarized into just a few sections. So we're gonna go through them one bit at a time. So the very first thing we can see here is the weekly limit, by which we can actually set to however weekly limit expenditure that we can actually put a cap on. So say for instance that we are actually setting the weekly limit to $15, we can already see that the conditional formatting here under the totals, as we can see here, will reflect as a visual change to indicate that we are overspending. Of course, this weekly limit can be set as per accordingly to one's own metabolic needs, total daily energy expenditure, metabolic requirements, and so on and so forth. So hence, be mindful over your own circumstances, as well as obviously over what you currently have or do not have in terms of financial leverages. So nevertheless, moving forward, the next thing that we can see here is the starting date of each weekly cycle. By default, what this author pretty much tries to recommend throughout over many years of actually battle testing, quote unquote battle testing, that is experimenting these budget sheets under real life use over so many years, as such that he sincerely believes that Wednesday should be ideally the starting point of each cycle. Why Wednesday? Well, it is just from a matter of consistency as well as practicality. So if we were to take a look at the calendar here, right, Wednesdays sits both comfortably and coincidentally as the absolute middle, as the absolute center and or the absolute middle of any given week. So this leaves us 3 days onwards as well as 3 days prior. And of course, this can be changed to any day that you wish. However, beware that if we were to start on Friday, for instance, what this Google Sheet may or may not be problematic in the long run is such that the overall columns that the Google Sheet actually needs to calculate for the actual averages total to work may not add up favorable from the start of the month to the end of each month. So in other words, there may be times whereby this monthly reading it may not actually coincide favorably, nor it makes sense, because otherwise it will as you can see here, this Friday, April the 1st, that should ideally begin over to the next column. But unfortunately, since we have actually explicitly set the date of the start cycle specifically on Friday, that may unfortunately therefore throws off the ideal calculation period. So hence, this is why Wednesday should theoretically and practically speaking, should be the most accommodating, pragmatic, as well as the most coincidental, so that we can plan ahead 3 days onwards, as well as another 3 days for the next following week, to add up, therefore, one full weekly cycle. So that's that when it comes to the budget cycle day. And then next here we have a next budget cycle indicator, just again for a matter of convenience, and then followed by obviously the entries, the item entries. Obviously we can see that right now this is all within individual entries of up to 17 items, but you're more than welcome to actually combine different items into just one value. So that's just that as an option. We can see that there's a total indicator there, and once again, as a matter of convenience, the most expensive purchase indicator is as implied and as self-explanatory as it sounds. Say if item number 14 is the one that is the most expensive, then of course the Google Sheet will be able to pick it up and therefore display that conditional formatting. Moving forward, we have the weeks at a glance overall totals for each given passing weekly cycle, and then as a visual incentive, a visual graph over where we are heading. So we can see the graph will change dynamically as we go along. So that is that. Let us just undo that for a second to make sure that it's just now returning to their baseline placeholder value. And moving forward, the overall for month totals, and then lastly the average weekly spending per the given entire month. So that in a nutshell is pretty much the entire structure for each given month. What we've examined is January, which is technically speaking the beginning initial period of the entire year of the budget sheets, calculations and formulas. However, what is different between January and February moving onwards is such that we have a comparison indicator down here. What this actually pretty much tries to present is pretty much an indicator whether we are underspending, neutral, or overspending. So as we can see here, on February we have already been overspending by about 5.88%. So that just wraps up the very first 6 months of this entire budget sheet template. There is, however, another page in which that actually covers the next 6 months. So what that second 6 months follows on is, once again, as expected, it follows on from whatever we actually inputted within June will automatically translate and still be accounted for in July onwards. The exact same process, the exact same facilities are provided here, month in, month out, all the way from July 2022 in this case, and all the way until January of the next following year. In this case here, Wednesday, January the 4th, 2023. So all in all, that pretty much covers up the entire budget sheet template walkthrough at a glance. So hopefully this budget sheet will pretty much help anyone who's willing to, once again, take a deeper examination over their pattern of consumption as well as their budget expenditures overall from week to week and month to month. If you have any questions and or comments and or suggestions, please feel free to raise them down in the comment section below. By all means, once again, leave it forward and thank you for watching.